It is Thursday, June 24th. This is episode 165 of the Token CEO podcast. This is the Pride episode. We are proudly presented by Sports Research. Sports Research, if you don't know who they are, you clearly don't listen to this show. They are one of the best sports companies out there. So whether you're looking to get in shape, take some collagen, have some vitamins, get an at-home workout kit, use Sweet Sweat, they are a great partner to help make all of your athletic ambitions come true. You can take advantage of getting anything and everything at Sports Research for 30% off if you go to sportsresearch.com and use code TOKEN for 30% off at checkout. Okay, so we have got 5 things happening in today's episode. We're going to cover the headlines as we do most episodes. We're going to talk about what it means in today's day and age to have an inclusive work environment. We have an interview with Kyle and Pat. If they worked at ESPN, ESPN would say they are actively gay employees. They are actively gay, quote unquote, employees of Barstool Sports. They are awesome people and they have a lot to share. We have a killer interview with Jerrod Blandino. Jerrod Blandino is the founder and CEO of Too Faced Cosmetics. And then we're going to talk a little bit about adulting before we let you go. So that's today's episode. All right, we're starting this off. We're going to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. So the Las Vegas Raiders defensive end Carl Nassib came out as gay this week. So shout out and power to Carl. He took to his Instagram to announce that he is gay. He wrote a very heartfelt post on Instagram. The Raiders reposted it and said, "Proud of you, Carl," which is a pretty big move for the NFL. His jersey, since his announcement, has been one of the top selling jerseys across the entire NFL, which is pretty awesome. He himself has said that he's donating $100,000 to the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project is a suicide prevention and crisis intervention organization for LGBTQ plus youth. What the Trevor Project has found, which is really heartbreaking, is that if kids can have at least one parent who is supportive of them, they're 40% less likely to report a suicide attempt. His team, so the Raiders, as well as many other players on many other teams, came out in support of Carl, which is pretty awesome. The NFL and football in general, I think, is a sport that has just been woefully behind in celebrating players being gay, embracing diversity, especially sexual diversity. We talk about this in our interviews, which is that representation matters, right? That's partly what I feel so strongly about in this podcast, which is that people should be able to be themselves and be successful, and they should be embraced for who they are, all their flaws, all the things that make them magic, all of the things that make them different and special. Our Kyle talks about this in terms of his own journey and the fact that the more people he saw as being gay and happy and out there and successful, the more comfortable he felt being who he was in his own skin. So representation matters. And this is, I think, going to be really important for all future athletes to come. So the second headline for us is that big change is coming for the NCAA. Obviously, this is something we are a big proponent of. This comes just before July 1st, where Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, New Mexico, and Texas will enact laws allowing college athletes in those states to profit from their names, images, and likenesses. The news for the NCAA is that there was a unanimous court ruling from the Supreme Court that said the NCAA could not prohibit student athletes from receiving quote unquote, modest education related payments. What I think is funny in this whole thing is that the NCAA's entire position for exploiting athletes and taking all of the economics from those athletes is that there is something in America and there's something in American sports whereby the consumer or the public enjoys the amateur status of a college athlete. And therefore, that is the reason why the NCAA should be allowed to prevent those athletes from making money. Justice Brett Kavanaugh refuted this and said, essentially, nowhere else in America can businesses get away with agreeing not to pay their workers a fair market rate on the theory that their product is defined by not paying their workers a fair market rate. So big blow for the NCAA. We'll see what this means. I don't think this automatically means that there'll be a windfall for athletes. Obviously, you're going to see great change in the states that I mentioned. And ultimately, I think you're going to see, in the same way you saw it in the Olympics, in the same way you've seen it in other arenas, you are going to see athletes and student athletes in particular start to harness their brands and frankly start to control their economics. The next headline, nothing to do with sports, but Facebook has officially entered the live audio room chat. So Facebook is making their version of Clubhouse, essentially just like Clubhouse. Hosts that are verified and I think laughably in good standing with Facebook, which is always the question. Everybody wants to know what is their standing with Facebook. People in good standing with Facebook can create their own clubhouses, or as Facebook would call them, their own live audio rooms. You can invite people to attend the room. I think they're solving one of the biggest issues from Clubhouse in that you can have an unlimited amount of people in those rooms. Listeners can join, listeners can co-host, listeners can help you moderate a session. These are going to be available to any verified public figure or creator in the US. Again, all of these creators need to be in good standing with Facebook. So as you can imagine, we will be waiting to see if we're in good standing to determine whether or not Barstool Sports will be taking advantage of this. But I think the most interesting piece here, we'll see how successful they will be, is Facebook is getting into the live audio game in the same way Twitter is tiptoeing into the live audio game. Spotify is steamrolling into the live audio game. And we'll see if Apple gets into the live audio game. That actually will be interesting to see if that happens. All right, last headline, most interesting in my opinion. Amazon's $8.5 billion MGM deal is about to be reviewed by the FTC. So the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission, is reviewing Amazon's proposed acquisition of the Hollywood studio MGM. This is happening as the commission has a new chairwoman who has been most critical of the online giant's expansion. We obviously talked about this a couple episodes ago, where we talked about the 4 or 5 pieces of antitrust legislation which are being lobbied at the FANG companies. As you guys know, one of the biggest differences between Amazon and Netflix is that Netflix has been successful at building its own creative, creating its own hit, having a studio inside of Netflix. Amazon has been far less successful in making its own creative hits. I don't think that's surprising. Technology companies typically aren't great at being creative companies. So as a result, Jeff Bezos, who I heard is obsessed with James Bond, like obsessed with James Bond. That's bizarre. Do you think he thinks he's James Bond? Anyways, MGM, to just set some groundwork, is one of the smaller of the Hollywood studios. So MGM, I think, has a library around 4,000 films. What's interesting is that normally I don't think MGM would flag an antitrust or an anti-competitive review. But given the heightened sensitivity about Facebook, Amazon, Google, and Apple, Washington is clearly paying far more attention. The thing that I love about this is that Rocky will go to Amazon, so that when I want to listen to Training Day on repeat, which I do when I work out, I can now watch that on my Amazon Prime. Obviously, it is a massive time for content. If you listen to Rich Greenfeld or really any analyst in the media space or really anyone looking at the streaming companies, what everyone will say is it is a heyday for content. What you're seeing is that the studio business is dead or dying. The studios aren't making money from theatrical releases the way that they used to. And so the tie-ups between the big streaming companies, which let's face it, are today's movie theaters. It's just in your home when you want it, everywhere, anywhere. The tie-up between those companies and the studios is very natural. So obviously what this means is that if you have a small indie studio or if you have a big Hollywood studio, those studios are looking to get acquired by the likes of Hulu or Amazon or Netflix or Apple or Disney. And I think that we're in the middle of this. This is not the end or the last sign of things to come, which is that most long-form content, theatrical content, will be viewed on a streaming platform. And most studios will start to view those companies as their main source of distribution if they haven't already. So I think what's interesting about this is essentially how Amazon is essentially going to be able to do a global takeover around products, services, and brands that it creates. You can imagine MGM creates a brilliant new theatrical release. Great characters, great storyline, great plot, targeted to a very desirable audience. Amazon is going to put that in Whole Foods. They're going to talk about it at the Washington Post. It's going to be on toothbrushes and toothpaste sold at Whole Foods. Like, you can see the data from all of that will be in the cloud. They'll use the targeting from that data to find other segments and other clusters of people who might like similar films, which will then in turn drive MGM to make new types of movies that are designed to satiate that particular audience and the audience that serves Amazon's larger global business. So super interesting times. So that's it for headlines. Let's talk about an inclusive work environment. I would say inclusive work environment are probably three words that you would never think to associate with Barstool Sports. I would actually argue we have one of the most inclusive work environments. We're clearly far from perfect, but I think what makes it inclusive is that Barstool is a place that celebrates who you are, what your hook is, what you have to offer to the company. And in general, nobody really gives a shit about what you're supposed to be like. If you're not interesting, if you're not different here, if you're not willing to work hard, if you're not willing to put your own skin in the game, you generally don't do very well at Barstool Sports. Versus a lot of companies who have an already set norm, have an already set culture, have an already set way of doing things, way of looking, way of acting, way of behaving. What I love about our company is that I think inclusion comes from accepting people as they are. I think what's challenging in the perception of this company is this is a company that calls out stereotype 24/7. People don't like that. This is a company that's been ignorant in its past. People don't like that either. I was having a conversation Friday night at dinner about Facebook, and we were talking about Sheryl Sandberg and Carolyn Everson. And Carolyn Everson is widely respected in the ad industry. One of the most beloved sales executives out there. She worked at MTV. She was fabulously successful before she went to Facebook. There's like a whispered story that goes around the ad industry that essentially Carolyn was supposed to go on stage at something somewhere. Sheryl pulls her aside in the bathroom, and who knows if this is true or not. I obviously wasn't there. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard this story. It's like urban legend in the ad business. Sheryl Sandberg pulls Carolyn Everson into the bathroom and is like, you can't go on stage looking like that. And essentially turns Carolyn Everson into a clone of Sheryl Sandberg. How she acts, how she speaks, how she dresses, how she presents herself. Now, that's not inclusive or exclusive, but I think it's an indication that there's a lot of companies out there, whether that story is true or not. There's a lot of companies out there that want people to hold the company line. They want people to look the company part, and they want people to do things the company way. I think in today's day and age, to have a successful company, it needs to be a little bit messy. It has to be a little bit chaotic. You have to embrace people for who they are. You have to have an expectation of them, and they have to deliver against that expectation. But I think one of the things about being inclusive is that you really have to make your company big enough and weird enough and open enough to accept people the way that they are and the way that they came. And I think that's something that's really changing. I think you're going to see that change even more so as more people work from home. Like, what is inclusion when everybody works from home and the only place you talk to each other is on Zoom? Like, how do you create a culture of inclusion? I don't really know how that works, to be honest with you. What I do love is when you talk to new companies, startups, entrepreneurs. Those are companies that are so desperate to grow and so eager to make a mark that they're just happy to have you helping them. They don't care what color you are, what gender you are, who you're sleeping with, what your sexuality is, what you did before, who you liked before this or that, what you used to look like. Nobody cares about any of those things because the mission of what the company is creating is more important. And I'm happy that we are a company that is mission driven in that way. I'm happy that we're a company that has humor. And I'm also happy that we're a company that kind of calls things out, even though that can get choppy and messy and isn't always appropriate or PC. It's a company where, as Pat will tell you, you can walk in the door, plop yourself down on the rundown set, explain that you're gay, come out to all your friends and family that way, and then work here and have a gay podcast 3 years later. So now we have Kyle and Barstool Pat. So Kyle Mackey was a Barstool Viceroy. He went to Clemson. He joined us about 3 years ago. He helps run our Viceroy program now. Gay Pat no longer goes by Gay Pat, but you can call him Barstool Pat. So Barstool Pat is a producer. He's a personality. He's a great blogger. He's been with us about 4 years, I want to say, a little bit over 4 years. They come on to talk about their experience at Barstool, coming out at Barstool, and frankly, whether saying they work at Barstool is a help or a hindrance to their ability to get laid. All right, so Kyle and Pat.
What's up?
We're here. This is it. Happy Pride Month.
This is what it's like to be gay at Barstool Sports.
Yes,
So,
I love it.
the tell-all everyone has been waiting for.
Yeah.
So, all right, why don't you guys introduce yourself, like who you are, what you do here, how long you've been here, and then we'll get into Pat.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Kyle. I run the College Viceroy program. I'm the director of that. I've been here now coming up on 4 years. Will be September. And
You were a Viceroy before that.
I was a Viceroy, yeah. So I've been a part of Barstool for a long time now. I ran the count at Clemson, and it was not what I went to school for. I was going to school for architecture and just wasn't really into it. Yep. And that's when you guys were starting, as soon as I graduated, you guys were starting to get more serious about the program, needed people to run it. Yep. And it was just like good timing that I was finished with school. And
you wore orange all the time back then.
Wore orange all the time.
And
yeah.
his class ring too. Remember?
Yeah.
He
Walk
was
around
super
with
into it.
yeah.
I
the
always
Clemson
thought of
class
you as like
ring.
the Southern guy back then.
I mean, I'm from Massachusetts, so I mean, I guess I just really got into
the whole
Southern
Clemson
culture.
thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of, and then I
Okay.
just ended up here, and I've been here ever since.
Okay, great. And Pat?
And I'm Pat. I'm a blogger. I host a podcast called Out and About. I was a producer for Barstool Breakfast for a while, our Sirius XM show. I've been here full time, I think, like 3-ish years.
But you were here for,
But I was here for
I
like
think 2 years.
Yeah,
before
but
we
like
paid
a
you.
year before, and
Yeah.
then when the radio station came about,
Yeah.
you brought me on full time, and it's been kind of like an evolving role ever since. So like 3-ish years or so.
How did you originally get in the door?
So I originally got in the door. I wrote my way in. So I was at
Yep.
MTV. I was super
Yep.
unhappy with my job, and being from Massachusetts, Barstool was like the Bible
Yep.
growing up. You know what I mean? I would only read Boston.Barstool Sports. Never New York, never Barstool U. It was just very local. So I said, all right, fuck this. I hate my job. I'm going to write. I wrote in every day. I would send to the Tips email. I would send to Feidelberg, and I would send to Dave. I think I did about maybe like 100-ish blogs, and then I get an email from Dave,
Yeah.
and it just says, what's your deal? That's it. No punctuation, no anything. And I was like, oh my God, someone's reading this stuff? So I write another blog, nothing, for like maybe a month or so. And then Feidelberg writes back. He's like, hey, why don't you come in and meet us?
Yep.
I came in, met the guys. I went on the rundown like that day. And then the rest is history. So yeah, I
And
wrote my
literally,
way in.
you showed up for work. We did not pay Pat for like 2 years. Literally,
Yeah.
Pat showed up. You
I was
sat
like, no,
at
I
a
work here.
fold-out table. You were like, I am not leaving.
Yes.
Big, and it was
Yeah.
great. Okay, so we're talking about Pride Month. We're talking about being gay at Barstool Sports. So you were out when you started blog. I remember Dave talking about you, and you were writing in part, not in full, about being a gay white male. Is that fair?
Yeah, that was fair. So like I mentioned the rundown, I was out, but not really like publicly.
Okay.
So before Barstool,
What does that mean?
so like close friends and family knew.
Okay.
But I wasn't like
Your mom knows you're gay, but you're not like, ding,
right.
ding, ding.
I'm not
open
commenting
for
on
business.
things.
Okay,
There's no
got
like
it.
social commentary.
got it.
And so when I went on the rundown and I like kind of accidentally came out, I started getting text messages from like friends and family being like, wait a second, you're gay? And that was the moment that things kind of changed for me. So to answer your question, I was partially out, but not fully.
Okay. That's kind of a great way to go out because you're like, hey, everybody knows now. you
Right,
know?
exactly. Yeah.
And what about you?
Yeah, when I first came to Barstool, I was out in New York City, but my close
Not out here.
No, I was out here. So like if I met anybody out, like friends and stuff,
Yeah.
I was gay.
Yeah.
But my family hadn't known yet, my close friends didn't know, and it wasn't until Pride of that year actually in New York City that I posted like on Instagram and I like publicly came out to everyone.
Were you out in college?
No.
Would that have been a bad scene?
I don't think so. I mean, all my close friends from college were totally fine with it. Clemson's a very like conservative campus, but there are people that are openly out,
Yeah.
and it's no big deal really. So I'd never it was more so just kind of like a denial with myself type of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and so how do you think, is it different now coming out than I feel like I'm in the generation of the coming out stories were terrible. Like your mom's sending you to therapy, your dad's punching a wall, and now I feel like if you talk to a 12-year-old kid, it's everyone is so accepting. I'm not obviously a huge proponent of PC culture, but what I really love is the fuck it, everybody can love everybody, you fly your freak flag, whatever that may be, gay, straight, white, black, orange, purple, red, weird, whatever that may be. So what's your perspective on that?
So my perspective is, it's funny, we hire younger kids now. We hire TikTokers fresh out of college, people from the Viceroy program. These kids are 20, 21, 22-ish, sometimes younger. And what I've found is that I'm kind of in a sense from your generation, and it's what's the struggle in my content career now is that kids my age, I'm 31 years old. It was a big deal to come out. To me personally, just because the world was different even 5 or 10 years ago when I did it. But now, like you mentioned, with these younger kids, it's really no big deal. You look at shows like Generation on HBO, where it's about the sexual fluidity of teenagers and just kind of this.
Can we just pause on that? I think everyone in their early 20s is just fucking everything.
Yes. No,
yeah,
I'm like that too.
True.
It's so loosey-goosey and fluid. It's
right.
It's really completely
it's
different.
Got a hole? All right. I'm serious. I'm not even do
but
you
it
agree?
is different. And even the younger kids now, we'll talk and it's just I'm talking to someone. There's never any mention of my sexuality or anything, even though that is part of my job to comment on things that are happening in the community.
Yeah.
But I notice a difference when I talk to people who are even my age. There's unfamiliarity with it, and it's almost trying to figure out how to talk to me and relate. And I hate to throw someone under the bus here, but a Brandon Walker, for example.
Okay, struggles.
There's a little bit of an awkwardness.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah, and there's
so he's
not that.
looking at the floor. I think he looks at the floor and struggles because I'm a woman.
Yeah, that could be it. But yeah, there's definitely a difference. Yeah.
I also think, sorry to interrupt you, that it's so interesting to me that it's such a question of identity, where I almost feel that 20-somethings, it's just not, it doesn't matter in your identity. Whereas the 50-somethings, it was so closeted, so you were hiding who your true self was. And 30-something, the middle, you guys, people my age, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, that's exactly
came out, bit the book, came out, and then it was a big part of identity that now doesn't matter so much.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's not. I would say it's not as big of a deal anymore. I mean, it still is for a lot of people, but representation matters. And you go on Netflix now, and half the shows have some sort of gay LGBT type of relationship within the show. And growing up, I didn't have anything to watch like that. There was just no shows that even showed that. So I think it's just makes people a lot more comfortable coming out, and it's not viewed as such a big deal as it was 5, 10, 20 years ago.
What about, so I think the people who don't read, watch, follow, pay attention to Barstool Sports are that is the pit of heterosexual alpha male.
Yeah.
Insert every criticism here.
Yeah.
So how do you think about your sexuality working here within that context?
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting when I tell people where I work, just meeting people out at parties or whatever. It's always a mixed. I'm always anticipating what they're gonna say, because
definitely, especially if they're gay, you gotta
what's
the reaction gonna be here?
Exactly, because
So sorry if you think a guy is super hot at the bar or wherever, and you're are you mentioning where you work or are you not?
Depends on if he has a backwards hat on or not.
It's half and half.
Really?
Yeah.
It's half or half. It's either a selling point or it's
you're how am I going to play this?
You can usually tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right away.
Okay.
No, because there are people with bad views of us. Just from it's the same thing that we're misogynistic, that we're homophobic, when it's not the case at all. But just from past news titles, and if there's any sort of blogs that I've gotten people that have referenced blogs in the past that there's been jokes about the community, and that's just some random blog from 10 years ago that doesn't really correspond to how we feel today. But some people, it's always like I said, a mixed reaction. Some people have never even heard of us. Some of us know us as like the Instagram company. That
so
has
many
the one
people
page.
do, especially gays. Oh, you have the Instagram.
Right.
Like that's like a little part of
I know.
what we
Exactly,
do.
yeah.
But yes, we do have an
It's
Instagram.
kind of like hot young girls, and the gays are like, oh, I love the Instagram.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And how do you? So this conversation is so. It's not funny for me with you, Pat, because you have Out and About. So you have your own podcast. You talk about this stuff. It's harder for me with you, Kyle, because I'm like, I don't want to talk about my sexuality at work. I hardly want to talk about my gender at work. So like, how do you feel about this part of your identity and work and even having this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of a joke within the gay community that like each year that after you come out, you kind of like level up. And that's definitely how I kind of feel. Like when I first came out here, I was still very much like not necessarily open about it, and like, you know, wearing shorter clothes, and like I had my nails painted for the first time the other day that I came into the office. I'm actually going to get them done for Pride.
You are? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I think we're going to do like rainbow.
Oh, I love that.
Rainbow colors.
Stool and stars.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he wants to have a successful Pride. Okay, yeah.
So now, so like I think I'm just getting more comfortable even with my own sexuality, that I'm like okay with doing that here at the office. And I've never felt that like I couldn't do that here, because I feel like we're a very like progressive company and no one really gives a shit, to be quite honest. So it's more so just like doing it for myself and like what
you're comfortable with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I was talking to Jerrod Blandino, CEO of Two Face Cosmetics. I actually talk about your nail story in I interviewed the CEO. Is he the CEO? Yeah. Okay, the CEO of Two Face Cosmetics, who is the most fabulous person I've ever met, period, in my life. And he was talking about just like makeup is self-expression, and he is a person who clearly has embraced, he talks about being a Christian, he talks about being gay, like he's really embraced all parts of his life. And I was saying how one of the funniest things, I had no idea if you were gay or not. I really didn't give a shit. Right. I still don't give a shit. Yeah. But I remember two things, which was, one is somehow someone showed me your Instagram. And for anyone who wants
do it.
I mean, Kyle has the most gorgeous set of abs any person on the planet has ever seen. Don't you think? Do you work hard on your abs? You must work very hard on your abs.
I have recently started, personal training. And
that's gay currency. Abs are gay currency.
Okay, well,
that's the joke
Kyle's
that I've always made.
Rich is all I have to say.
He's very wealthy.
Super wealthy. So I was like, oh shit, Kyle's gay. Like, because you could see the pictures, and I was like, oh, this, and you're gorgeous.
What the hell, Erika?
No,
there's
Pat,
nothing for me, too? No. I'm not gorgeous?
You know what I like about you, Pat? I think you're fabulous, and you won our basketball tournament for us.
Okay,
you were my star player for the Chippewas.
Pat is like the straightest gay guy I've ever met.
I know, that's
also,
where I envy Kyle a little bit, because Kyle is more comfortable than I am, like being more out at work. And it's funny because like I'm the out gay guy at work. But like he's
the guy
more
with the gay podcast.
Right, but he's more like visually like,
yes.
Oh, this is a gay guy. And that's one of the things that's happened with my content lately. What I've realized, especially with this podcast, is that I have come to the realization that I need to stop making jokes for straight people on our website, on the blog, like, which I'm very good at doing. And I need to now focus my content on my podcast to make jokes for my own people, because that's the stuff that's going to resonate, and that's the stuff that's going to be
really
authentic. And I think that that's the stuff that over time will like build this organically.
Yeah.
So that's the struggle and like what I'm figuring out now along the way.
For folks who do think we're a bunch of assholes, everyone just calls you Gay Pat.
Yeah, it's like
I had a meeting with Wajiha the other day, and I was like, "What about Pat?" She's like, "Gay Pat," and I'm like. Yeah, Gay Pat. But then I heard you don't want to be called Gay Pat.
Yeah,
which I respect.
I switched my name on the blog, just 'cause I thought it was like played out, and it's like if you want to be taken a little more seriously, you kind of gotta. But it's also
kind of speaks to you're not the token gay guy that can hang with the straight guys. You're like Pat. I'm just Pat. Like
right, exactly.
It's like Saturday.
It's Pat. I knew exactly it. But yeah, when it was first.
You don't even know what we're talking about.
I don't.
That too. Yeah, you're too young. Okay.
When you first start, you have to have like a differentiating factor. So that was it. But I feel like people kind of know who I am, so it's like I can.
And you cover so much. I mean, I think you're a great blogger about a whole bunch of things. Doesn't have anything to do with that. So what was the reaction when you started wearing the nail polish at work?
At work, honestly, no one really. I don't even know if anyone like commented. It was just like I said. Everyone's just so nonchalant here that like it doesn't really matter. It was more so reactions from like, you know, friend groups and out at parties that like had always seen me out and never had done that before, and they were just, you know, were supportive of that and just thought it was very cool. And it was just, like you said, it was kind of fun, like self-expression.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I was just excited. I
Yeah.
would be like staring at your, you know, we'd be like in a meeting about like
Yeah.
the t-shirt sales.
Next
and I'd
week
be like,
I'll come in with a wig.
Yeah.
And we'll be.
then let's go. Okay, so the other thing, Kyle, that I want to talk about is the fact that you ran the Smoke Show account. So
Yes.
Oh my
I think
God,
this
I
is one of the
forgot
things
about
I'm
that.
most proud of at this company is for everyone who thinks we are just utter scum of the earth for having a Smoke Show account, which has beautiful women on it. It was run for a very long time, very successfully by a gay man. So talk about
Well, they never had to worry about me being
creeping
creepy.
in on it.
Yeah.
That was always a big deal for us. Who ran the Smoke Show account
Right.
was a big deal.
Yep. No, so, I mean, I was. So
We
when
just thought you weren't creepy.
Right. Well, when I ran it, I wasn't out. So I was just, you know, being polite. Like, you would have to like get permission from the girls, obviously, to post them on this page. So I would just DM them and, you know, talk things through. And it's funny. There was one girl who actually, after I came out, who was like, we followed each other on the personal pages after the fact that I posted her. And she DM'd me and was just like, "Wow, I had no idea you were gay. This makes total sense because you weren't asking for my
You're like the
number."
only
And
guy.
like, yeah, exactly. So no, it was good. It was fun. Like, you know, it's, you know, as a gay man, you recognize when women are beautiful. Like, it has nothing to do with that.
I think anyone can recognize
Yeah.
a beautiful. Like we had the whole discussion on Tuesday's episode about Victoria's Secret and the. I'm like, I loved the Angels. I could have stared
Yeah.
at the Angels all day long. They are just fine human specimens.
right. And it's this. I never understand when like straight men can say like they can't decipher whether a guy is attractive. Like, you 100%
you
know.
if
Yeah.
someone's attractive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter how, you know, heterosexual you are.
That's just them not being comfortable.
right. Exactly.
So your friend groups, how do they express themselves at work, or do they not, or what's it like, or?
Most of my gay friends outside of here are in like corporate jobs, so there's not really any like room for self-expression. Like a lot of them are in like finance, or some that are in PR are able to be a little more like outwardly flamboyant
Yeah.
and like homosexual at
Yeah.
work, for lack
Yeah.
of a better word. But for the most part, none of them really have jobs like me where you can like actually say what you want to say and like voice an opinion. I don't know about you.
Yeah. We honestly really don't even talk much about, you know, that's like kind of like what you said before. It's not really, it's just who we are. It's not really like part of our identity in the fact that, you know, like I'm the gay man at this off. There are definitely people that are like open about it at work, but I would say that, you know, it's just, they're just kind of like going about their regular day.
Yeah, that's
So.
good.
I never like
good.
think about it outside
I
of
don't
work. Like the
either.
only time I ever, I'm just like, oh, I'm out with like my buddies. Like the only time I think about it is at work because I'm like trying to get an angle on something or like.
Well, because
blog
you're trying to make
something.
content. You're
Exactly.
like, what's my hook here? But I also like. I think the way you said it, Kyle, is right. Is everybody's like, okay, that's Kyle, like, or that's
Yeah.
Pat. You know what I mean? Like, that's just Pat. Like, and I like that. I think that's how people should be, which is come as you are and, you know, be a good person and try to do the right thing and, you know, be great at work and you know, be happy in your life. What do you wish that straight people didn't do, knew more of, stopped doing, thought differently about?
Oh, gosh.
One thing that's like recently happened to me is like the gay best friend thing. I think is a little bit annoying with girls. Do you ever get that?
Oh,
You'll meet a girl.
I feel like you are prime for gay best friend.
Yes. Oh, I can wear heels around you.
Yeah.
Like we can
I
go
can be
out.
myself.
Yeah, that can get a little annoying. But I think, I don't know. One thing that straight people like should not do was a question.
Anything. Yeah.
I think.
What's
I
like
don't know.
annoying?
That's
like,
tough. What's
yeah,
annoying?
I mean, this isn't.
Like, I'll give you an example. I hate when people are like, what's it like being a woman in sports? In a
Oh,
male-dominated
yeah.
industry. I'm
Gotcha,
like,
gotcha.
oh, God. Like,
Yeah.
what's
do you
the
think
question
he's,
you get or the thing people do?
I mean, it's not really work related. One thing that I recently just saw on Twitter that like there's been a lot of discourse of just because it's like Pride Week and stuff is straight people entering gay people or LGBTQs like spaces and being a little too aggressive with that. Like you have women that show up at gay bars and they're like, you know, touching on you and grinding on you, and it's just like it's still my personal space. Just because
Get off me,
It's like the
lady.
zoo
Right.
animal mentality. It's like
Right.
it's almost like a
what?
spectacle.
You're gay. It's fine. Like, but it's it's still.
This is like a thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, and especially it's in New York City. That's why I'm saying it's more so on Twitter. I haven't really experienced it too much, but I know for a fact places like Nashville where you get like the giant bachelor parties that go
Right.
to these bars and like gay bars and like drag queen shows especially. They just think that they like run the place, and you got to be like respectful and
Of the place.
right,
Okay.
and of the performers and all that stuff. You can't just like be grabbing people's like drag queens boobs and stuff
Yeah.
because you're
You wouldn't do that
'Cause
with
they'll
a
come
regular
off.
one. Yeah.
I think another one for me is like people asking what words you can and can't say constantly. It's like I feel like being gay in 2021 is just people asking what you can and can't say.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm like, can I say fag? Like, can I say this? It's like, what? Like, is there anything else we can talk about right now? Or if someone sees an article online and like they send it to you, it's good because they're like trying to reach out and like, it's their way of relating to you and building a relationship, but that can get a little bit old.
You're like, I don't want to be your like travel guide to
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
to gay
yeah.
culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. What would you say to, let's say there's a 15-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid wants to work in sports, getting comfortable with who he is sexually. Like, what's your advice to them?
That's a good question.
I would say it's like easier hindsight now that I've come out. I would say just be confident. Surround yourself with people that care about you, people that are going to support you, because a lot of people won't. But with that, it's moving away from that. Like most people don't care now. If you're 15 in 2021, it's not like you're 15 in 1951. You know what I mean? I think it's just stick with it and do what you love and be nice to people, be kind, be genuine, and then that's what'll shine through. And I think that's what ultimately will help you find success.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all just comes down to following your passions, whatever those are. I don't think it necessarily has to relate to your sexuality. What was the name of the football player who just came out?
Oh, Carl Nassib.
Yeah. Like that's going to help a lot of people in sports, I think, just that are struggling, high schoolers that, it's still, I think there is still like kind of a toxic like locker room environment. At least that's the case. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hoping that, with that news and like more people will come forward. But as far as like, working, like just following your passions and, whatever it is you want to do, figure out the goals to get you to that next step.
What's other gay slang?
Oh God.
We had the exact same reaction. Oh God.
There's a
Gay slang
lot?
in terms of like just anything at all.
Yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of different, what are they called? Technically tribes. You got, the bears,
Oh,
the
I
twinks.
love the bears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the
So
bears,
you got
the
all
twinks.
the twinks. There's otters, wolves.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm not even sure if I know all
No,
the.
yeah.
What's an
like,
otter?
An otter would be like
twink with
it's like
a little.
skinny, hairy guy.
Yeah.
Like who's an otter
Skinny,
here?
hairy guy.
Oh,
Like
God.
who would be an otter here?
Like Dana Beers?
Oh, Dana's a bear.
Yeah,
Dana's
like a
Dana's too
cub.
big for. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe John Kelly is a little otterish.
Oh, okay, great. I
Okay.
can see that.
Keith maybe.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Was a little
Yeah.
otterish.
Okay,
Those
so
are
I'm
good
sorry. We've got
examples.
the bear. Who's a twink?
Vibs.
Vibs is a twink. I've gotten messages on Tinder being like, "Can you set me up with Vibs?"
What makes a twink a twink?
Hairless, kind of skinny.
Very youthful, like a boy.
Youthful, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Okay.
there's twonks, which is
what's
Which
a
is what
twonk?
you're trying to be.
I'll accept that.
Oh,
I'll
you're a
take that.
twonk? Okay, what's
it's
a
like,
twonk?
It's like kind of a muscular, like twink, basically.
Oh, muscular twink.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Got
just
it.
lanky.
Okay.
I don't fit a category.
We went through otters or no? Otters are the hairy ones?
Yes, skinny,
Okay.
hairy.
Okay,
then you
what
have,
else,
like-
what else is there?
I know there's wolves, which is
Oh,
like
yeah, what's a
even
wolf?
a step further.
Very
than-
hairy.
Yeah, yeah. And
They have like a hairy
big.
ass, like a wolf.
Okay. Okay.
What else is? I don't even know what else.
Would you know a wolf or unless you have seen them naked or like
Yeah, you can still. It's because it's usually just like hairy
Everyone's
chest.
shirtless?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah, all the parties
great
shirts
is
come off in the
that?
first
Oh yeah.
5 minutes. especially in the summer.
When I went to Fire Island for the first time last year, I walked in to my house that I was renting, and there was just like a 20-person naked pool party. And it was the most mortifying moment of my life. But everyone was just so casual.
That would really stress me out to have to be shirtless.
I was like,
I would feel my fat everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some like toxic body image issues that we have in the community that I think people are having more conversations about being like better about it, I guess. But there's still definitely some underlying struggles with that and like status when it comes to like your body. But I think the more people that are like comfortable to, A, wear whatever they want, or B, if they don't want to wear anything with it because of their size or whatever, like we need more of that anyway.
Okay, sorry. My final question is: you're at the 20-person naked party, shirtless party. Where is your shirt going?
I shouldn't have said that.
Like, do pants matter more than shirts?
What do you mean by matter?
Well, because you're not going to wear your shirt, so do you put it in your bag? Like, what do you do with it?
Typically,
do
I'll
you
just
put it in your pocket?
tuck it into your little like band that like you can tuck the shirt into
that's
your band.
cute.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. All right, thank you guys for doing this. I learned a lot.
Of course. Have us back anytime. We'll teach you a bunch of other stuff.
I love this, but I also really love how you both got to Barstool Sports. I love how you own who you are, and I loved that everyone here, I truly think for the most part, if not entirely, has just accepted you guys for being Kyle and Pat, and that's how things should be. So I appreciate you guys, because I think it's weird to talk about this sometimes. Like, I just appreciate your courage and the role models you are for other people here and then other people in general.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks for having us.
Before we go into Jerrod, let's just talk about Black Rifle Coffee. So Black Rifle Coffee Company is a veteran-owned coffee company. They are all American. It is as American as it comes for coffee. They serve premium coffee for people who love America. I'm wearing my American flag sweater. I can only wear this thing 2 weeks a year, but I do love America. What's great about Black Rifle is they've donated more than 6 million cups of coffee to deployed soldiers, law enforcement, and medical workers. They have a signature buy a bag, give a bag initiative that's been wildly successful. The best way to enjoy Black Rifle coffee is by joining their coffee club. So you pick your roast, you subscribe to the product, they have it sent to you every month. You never run out of coffee. There's not much better than that. So go to blackriflecoffee.com/token and use code TOKEN to get the freshest coffee in America shipped to you. We are handing things to Jerrod Blandino. Jerrod Blandino is the founder and CEO of Too Faced Cosmetics. He is electric. I loved him. I could have jumped through the Zoom to just hug Jerrod. I loved who he is, what he stands for. They make a ton of great products. I'm obsessed with Better Than Sex mascara. I use it. I'm using it right now. They make a ton of great lip glosses. They make makeup palettes. You name it. If it's in makeup, Jerrod has done it. He started the company after working at Estee Lauder. He then sold the company to Estee Lauder for a whopping $2 billion. So congratulations to Jerrod. He has a lot of life advice, a lot of perspective on creating a business and growing a brand. And I felt like his perspective on being you and celebrating what makes you special was, frankly, inspiring. All right, so Jerrod, what I love that I've read about you is you seem to be a little bit of a rule breaker. You're like the person I love in life always. So what my reading on you showed was that you used to work at the mall and you had a job at the makeup counter. And I think it was an Estee Lauder makeup counter, and power to you. Then you sold your company for like billions of dollars to Estee Lauder. So like, go Jerrod. But you were the guy who, everybody wants a guy. So you were the guy who would like take 3 different products, you'd bring them home, you'd like mix them up to create a better formula, bring it back to your clients and your customers in a Tupperware, and then you just like knocked their socks off. So talk a little bit about like your journey in the makeup industry in particular, and also thinking about women. Like, you're obviously not a woman, but like talk about on what you saw in the idea of Too Faced and what you saw in the idea of how makeup can be transformative for people.
When I fell into cosmetics, it was by complete accident. And I believe in God, and I believe God, if you stay in your flow and you trust, you'll get to where you're supposed to be. So it was not a passion of mine. I fell into it. And very, very quickly, I discovered it was such an expression of art. And being a very artistic kid, I was always winning like art contests and things growing up. A rebel in the sense that if rules did not make sense or apply to me. I just couldn't follow them. Not that I was like a rebel just for the sake of being
you're
a
like,
badass,
rules don't
but,
apply to
that
me.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Why would I do it that way?
Kind of. That doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. So I fell into cosmetics, and I very quickly understood that it was a self-esteem boost for these women who were so intimidated by at the time was the late 90s, by the pageantry of purchasing and wearing makeup. And there was so much rules and step 1, step 2, step 3, don't do this, don't do that. And I just discovered, like, guys, this is so much fun. It's so much more fun to be a girl, at that point. Boys can wear makeup now, which is so cool.
How fun is that?
Amazing. But I just thought, I'm going to be your gay best friend for 5-10 minutes. I'm going to love you through this. I could say, like, girl, who told you that eyebrow was okay? I could say things to women that other girls couldn't because there was no competition. It was just pure love. I wanted you to be the best you could be. And through that, I said, I don't have what I need here. This isn't fun enough. So I had some celebrity clients come in and stuff, and I'd be like, you're going to the Emmys? We got to do something. So I'd smash up a Chanel blush and mix it with the Lancome lip gloss and pour a little of my Estee Lauder eyeshadow in it. And I just make all these crazy things. And I ended up getting this reputation. So people would come in, buy like 18 things. I would take them home, melt them, chop them up, bring them back in little Tupperware cups. And then they'd come pick up like 6 different, things. I merged those 18 into 6 things. And at one point, security was like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm doing this whole thing. I'm selling all this makeup. Yeah, you're going to be so proud. And they're like, you can't do that. And I was like, why? And that just pushed us into, my husband now, my boyfriend at the time, this was 23 years ago, pushed us into, like, we got to do this a different way. So we set about creating a brand that would celebrate people and kind of dare you to be the best version of yourself every day, whatever that means. Punk one day, prep the next, whoever you want to express yourself to be. But I want you to be the best version of you. I don't want you to be someone else. I don't want you to look like someone else. You can be inspired by someone else, but I want you to take that on.
You should look like you. So where did the brand come from?
The name?
Yeah.
So working behind the counter, it was a term we coined for women who were, let's say, difficult, very, very dedicated to their vanity and into their look. So God forbid you were out of their must-have lipstick or foundation color. We'd be like, oh gosh, be careful. This one's two-faced. She's all about her look. She's all about her face.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And they were my favorite clients because they were so crazy dedicated to their glam that I loved them, And so it was like two-faced. It was almost done in a
tongue-in-cheek.
Kind of a playful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, tongue-in-cheek. For sure. Yes, but like it's beyond vanity. You're taking this shit seriously.
Yeah, 100%. Get me my fucking makeup, Jerrod.
Exactly. Now,
Bitch. Okay. Talk about being a gay male founder with a partner who is also married to you. Like, did you struggle to raise money? Did you struggle for people to take you seriously?
The entire fucking time. Nobody took us seriously. Nobody gave us a loan. Nobody looked in our direction. We were coined trend, young, whatever that means.
Trend.
And while all these people they're all competing against each other, letting Too Faced and our other trend category like Urban Decay and Hard Candy, they kind of ignored us. And while they weren't paying attention to us and worrying about the traditional way of doing things, we kind of helped forge a new world. And kind of took over. And like you said, Better Than Sex, you love Better Than Sex. It's the #1 mascara in America and across the world. I have the #1 lip gloss in the entire country and across the globe with one SKU lip injection. So anyway, while they were all kind of writing us off, brands like Too Faced, we were taking over the world in our own way. And we went into Sephora at the very beginning, open sell, and we jumped into social media at the very beginning because there was an organic love for communicating with our fans. And we just did it our own way and made our own rules.
Talk a little bit about how do you feel about influencers? Like, one of the things that people say about, one of the things that you guys did, I think, very astutely during the pandemic was in the cosmetics industry, everyone is focused on the shoots and the model and the production and the yada yada. And you guys are like, hey, nobody can do anything. Everyone's locked down. Let's just put this brand in the hands of the people who will love it and use it and make it their own. So talk a little bit about how you think about influencers and how do you feel about I think I know the answer to this, but how do you feel about your product in the hands of other people?
Okay, so as far as influencers, I'm just the biggest fan. I've become some of my best friends are beauty bloggers and social influencers because they're so freaking talented. Listen, there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of trolls and a lot of negative, like we're not talking about that. We're talking about the talent. We're talking about these amazing young people who just took their phone, took a camera and made their own way. And they took products from my brand, from other brands, and worked them in ways we couldn't even imagine. They inspire me. They drive me, and they're integral in getting your message out, getting your products out, and getting your kind of love out to the world. It's the new Vogue, it's the new magazine, you know. And through COVID, I have so many great relationships, Jackie Ina, Candy Johnson, Patrick Starr, so many people that, Mariale, I said, I'm going to send you some products. I'm going to send you like my teddy bear collection. I'm going to send you a couple teddy bears. I have this idea, light it yourself, shoot it yourself. Let's collaborate. And I've done that a few times over COVID, and we've done these photo shoots and these campaigns with a true collaboration with some of my social influencer friends, and they've just been fucking amazing. It's next level, you know what I mean? And it's so through pain is a gift. Through, you know, having to kind of find your way through the dark, you find the light, and it's just been so exciting.
I also, you know what I really like about the beauty bloggers, and the one is that I like that it's women. Two is that I like that most of them don't have any formal training. Like, I think the rawness of a girl or a guy, doesn't matter, a person, the rawness and the creativity, and also the pride in the creation of the pride in what you can create, and thinking about your face and your body and your identity as an expression, I think is very, very refreshing. Like, I think that there is something very anti-establishment in it, almost. And I really like that. I also really like that there's, to your point, like one of the reasons I really loved your story was I don't think you ever thought the rules applied to you, and you were like, fuck it, I'm going to go mix a bunch of shit in Tupperware and make something happen. And I think that's what people are doing. And now the world has changed so much where, you know, I was part of a fashion startup in the early 2000s, and it was like, Anna Wintour was God in that industry at that point in time. And you were in, or you were out, or you were right, or you were wrong. And now the world it's just so different. And I think your ethos and who you are and the products that you've created are so ripe for that.
Thank you. It's really about being 100% authentic, about making room for everyone. I'm a fan of other brands. I am such a fan. And when one of my quote unquote competitors does something right, I celebrate them. I root them on. I tell everybody who works for me, we're running our own race. Look ahead. Don't look to the sides. No one needs to fail for me to succeed. Okay. That's just rule number one. And there's just an authentic, wild talent energy out there that is so against the corporate establishment, so against the manipulation and the kind of robotic system that is out there. And I have a very hard time being around that. I have a very, very hard time being around inauthentic things, people. When people want, I do not hire like groups that will tell me what's cool. Marketing, I don't do any of that.
You don't know.
I hate it. It's my job to do. If I can't tell you what's cool, I should pack up my toys.
You should not be hiring me. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, let's end this today. So, you know, like you said, moving into a corporate world over the last couple of years has been a challenge for me because I feel even more rebellious. I feel even more independent, and I feel even more like dedicated to my artistic expression and not letting anyone control me or edit me. So my my fans' experience can be the absolute best it can be. So it's always about product first and customer experience first.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're very generous. I think that's very rare in business. Like, I think people are so insecure very often as human beings or as business people or as competitors that what you're saying is actually quite radical, which is no one else has to fail for me to shine. And the failure of someone else, your permission doesn't come from that. And I think that's actually quite rare. I would also imagine, you know, you and I are somewhat going through similar things whereby, you know, we're now part of a bigger company. And it's like when I go into a group meeting and there's like a bunch of suits in there, I feel like the need to box out and be more obnoxious than usual.
Just my throat, like, Yes,
Yeah, you
my
get like a
throat's-
like,
I
like
feel I
closes
can't
up.
breathe. Oh, yes.
Okay.
It's
I tend to rock. I go like this. I'm like, I will.
you rock yourself in a corner. You're like in the corner going, no. Yeah.
I straitjacket
I'm emotionally,
myself.
mentally doing that.
Yes, exactly. Just inside. What is your advice to men, women, people like who are trying to be their most authentic selves, trying to celebrate who they are, fighting against a lot of rules?
For me, being gay was not something that I wanted to identify every part of me. It's a facet of myself. Just like you being straight is a facet of yourself. You don't walk into a room with that first. So I made a choice that I was going to be who I was, but not also let it kind of control me or become something that drove too much of what I was doing or what I was interested in. And that was kind of a choice because I wanted to be, I guess, quote unquote normal. I wanted to move through the world like anyone else would be allowed to move through the world, regardless of who I love. And so that was like my choice. And I've been in a very traditional monogamous relationship, married for 26 years, married in 2008 when we could. And it's just like, for me, I want to be that option for you that if you want that life, you can have it. If you want a marriage like your mom and dad, and you want a life, that looked, like kind of traditional as growing up, that's available to you. Not that you have to have it, not that you can't choose something else, not that you can't find your own way and become your own person. Of course you can.
Yep.
But for me, I'm a Christian, gay, married, successful artist that leads with my heart. And I want just everyone to know that you're loved for you. And that for me, as a Christian, God doesn't love you in spite of you being gay. God loves you because you're gay, and you're exactly who you're supposed to be. So give yourself the opportunity to be loved, to love completely and thoroughly, because I think a lot of us are told something's wrong with us. This isn't right. You're oversexed. You can't have somebody who will love you. All this shit gets put into your brain. I'm Gen X, so it was really put into my brain. And I had to go through therapy to really kind of get rid of some of that. And I think the wonderful thing about today is that kids are allowed to be who they are, and they're not being manipulated or chained or defined by who they love. They're being celebrated for it, and they're allowed to express it and to figure it out. And it's so beautiful. And I can't even imagine what that must feel like, but I'm thrilled for them. And in corporate culture, everyone's celebrating gay pride. Like, it's just incredible. But I also don't want it to be a trend. So I'm very kind of like conscious about taking something as serious as, let's say, gay pride, and making it a trend, because trends end. This is not a trend. This is something that will continue, and that is a part of our lives and is a part of our culture, and must continue and must grow and must strengthen. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I'm very conscious. It's very conscious about not taking something political or very meaningful and trivializing it through.
Yes.
I just do it in a way that it's not going to burn out, that it's not a trend, that it's real, that it's true, that it's celebrating human beings who will be here for the rest of time. And it's just saying, we're making room for you, and we love you, and we're allowing you to fill your allotted space up with your beautiful colors.
Yeah, I love that, Jerrod. I think I also kind of hate the kitschy, like, there's a month for this, there's a day for that. I'm like, fuck off. Like, who cares? It's a marketing gimmick.
Every day is.
Somebody's selling
day,
something. And it's like, what really shows is like, are you supporting people as they come, who they are? I don't really care who you love. I don't care what you did before. I don't care where you went to college. I want to know, like, are you curious? Can we do something together? Are you a good person? And what I really love about you is, I think you have like a nice little, you're Christian, so you probably wouldn't say this, but you have like a nice little bit of fuck you, but you say it with a lovely like smile.
I'm a Christian, and like, guys, I'm not perfect, and I'm also not traditional. Like, I'm very rebellious, and just because I believe in God doesn't mean that I'm not wild, and I don't say
saying the F word all the time.
Things that, no, like, please, you don't have to be perfect. That's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
We're perfectly imperfect. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. All right, Jerrod, thank you so much. This was awesome.
You're so welcome. Thanks for inviting me. I love what you do. I think so much of what you do is so creative and entertaining and inspiring. So it's just, thank you for that. And just keep being you, boo.
All right, you keep being you, Jerrod. Tell people where they can follow you and where you want them to find Two Faced.
Yeah, so at Jerrod Blandino, JerrodBlandino on Instagram. And I'm at twoface.com. You can find me there anytime, anywhere. On TikTok, we're around, we're there. And I also I have the baking thing going. So hashtag bake up with Jerrod.
Oh, I love the baking thing.
It's another way of expressing myself. So it's just being creative and having fun.
All right, Jerrod, power to you, dude. So as always, we give a little shout out to High Noon. High Noon is my favorite vodka soda. I love the peach flavor, although they have a new tropical pack, which is not to miss. They've got mango, passion fruit, watermelon, and pineapple. Pineapple is the #1 best-selling flavor of High Noon ever. All flavors are available in a 4-pack. You can also get an 8-pack variety pack. It's only 100 calories. It's gluten-free, no added sugar. It tastes delicious. If you want to throw a little New Amsterdam vodka in there to spice things up, you can do that. But we love High Noon at Barstool Sports. So speaking of High Noon, I'm going to give a nice PSA to anybody who works at Barstool Sports. So tonight is the Barstool Sports New York summer party. We do this once a year. Personally, I think it's awesome that coming out of a pandemic, we're having a party. I'm excited about it. I think that people here work so incredibly hard. I think they bust their ass. I think there's so many people behind the scenes who don't even know each other because we've been on Zoom with one another for what feels like 20 years. So I'm excited for everyone at Barstool to get out and go to our summer party. Daniela organized it. We finally got Wajia to approve it, which is amazing. We're doing it in New York City tonight. So small PSA, we will have a lot of High Noon there. Be responsible about your High Noon. We just did a video this morning on what you can do to avoid a crisis at your holiday party. So first and foremost, if you have to say hi to people like me, do it early. Do it before you've had 2 drinks. Like get your boss's hello at the 1 drink mark. I think that's just a good strategy. Like you got to march up there. You say thank you. You say something memorable. You ask a question. I also am trying to do the same thing when I'm at a party. So I just want to let you know, like I'm trying to get to everyone before I've had 2 drinks. So get to your boss before they've had 2 drinks. Second thing is don't dress like you're going to a club. Like this is a work party. I remember we had a work party like a year and a half ago and half the people in there just like showed up and I was like, where are you going and who are you? So just don't forget it's a work party. We don't really care so much what people wear here, but I can imagine if you're at an accounting firm and it's your summer party, that you might want to be sensitive to what you're wearing. Third is try not to fawn all over people. And then the fourth is that nothing good happens after 11 p.m. So that's our holiday party. Last topic, we've gotten a lot of DMs. I get a lot of DMs about the adulting topic, which is cool. I love that. I didn't realize adulting was a thing. Like when I was in my 20s and early 30s, we just didn't talk about it. So it's actually cool that people talk about adulting as a thing, even though I'm like, what's wrong with you people? But anyways, I got a great DM this week from a woman named Erin. And what she was saying was that she had just gone through a big breakup and she felt the way that her manager treated her after her breakup sucked. And basically what her manager did was just to bury Erin in work and really just used the excuse or really just gave her the message of, hey, you should work more to get rid of your problems. We had a breakup in our family this week. So Rhea and Hank, who've been going together now, I want to say almost 4 years. I remember walking outside of HQ2, so our first New York office, and seeing Rhea and Frank together. It was like summer of 2017, I want to say. And then I was like, holy shit, you two are together. I obviously was the last to know. But anyways, they're great people. They were a great couple. They separated this week. And so it got me thinking about Erin's question because it's obviously never easy to go through a breakup. I think everybody reacts to breakups differently. I also think like there's that Robin Williams quote, which is, be kind because you never know what someone's going through. And I think a lot of times people are going through a lot, whether it's a breakup or there's a health problem in your family, or you don't have a great relationship with your parents, or you're having trouble with your friend group, or, there's a lot of shit that can go wrong in your life, to be honest with you. And most everybody is dealing with that all the time. I know I'm dealing with that all the time. And I think that's just generally how things are. I think at work, if you want your manager to be supportive and acknowledging and accommodating of stuff that you have going on in your heart or in your head, you have to be open with your manager about what's going on. I know for me personally, I'm very private. I hate talking about shit. So I'm like, I'd rather my manager not know what's going on and just treat me normal like I am and go about my day to day. I know everybody's not like that. I don't even think that's a great quality with myself, to be honest with you. But I think the biggest thing is if you want someone to help you, you have to tell them what the problem is. I think if you're a manager and someone who works for you comes to you with something that's happening in their life that's really bothering them, you have to listen. You should be supportive. You should ask the person what type of support they need. And then you should figure out a way to make them feel supported, but also to make sure that things still work for you and work for work. So in the case of Erin's manager, I think it probably was pretty insensitive that she just loaded Erin up with more work. I think a better way to manage that would have been like, hey, Erin, what do you need? Do you need a little bit of time off? Do you want some flexible hours? Do you want some projects that take you out of town for a little bit? Do you need more support? And I think that just having that conversation, if you're in a place where you need support and you want your manager to help you work through something, I think the best thing to do is just start by having the conversation. I think as the employee or as the person, you have to be sensitive that the manager really first and foremost cares about getting the job done. And then as a manager, I think you have to really care first that the person is a person. And I think if you go into it with empathy for both sides, you can come out of it with a way that the work all gets done, the person is supported, and everybody comes out the other side happier or better, or most importantly, in a good place. That's it for today's episode. You can leave us a voicemail at 440-462-1729. If you want to talk about anything regarding work, you want advice, you have perspectives, you want to pretend you're Ben Mintz, you can do that at 440-462-1729. If you haven't already joined our Facebook group, Ash had an awesome mentoring segment last night, or 2 nights ago, so we're fired up about that. Thanks to Ash for doing that. It's a great place to talk about mentoring, great place to talk about career. I'm at EKA Nardini. Token CEO is on Twitter and Instagram. You can also watch this on YouTube, and we are also on LinkedIn, and we will see you back here on Tuesday.